Welcome to Work Mom Says.
Don't be an idiot.
And now, here's your host, Work Mom.
Hello, everybody. I'm Lori Jo Vest. Thank you so much for joining me for this episode of Work Mom Says, Don't Be an Idiot. I am so excited to introduce today's guest and today's topic because this is something we all need to talk about more often. Today, I want to introduce you to Nagham Alsamari. She is an amazing speaker and just a wonderful human being who just impressed me from the first time I saw her speak. She is a resilience trainer and the founder of Imkan Leadership Development. And I am really excited to have you here. Nagham, say hello.
Thanks, Lori. Hi, everyone. Thanks for having me. I'm Nagham Alsamari, and I am a behavioral resilience trainer, which means I don't teach people to be tough or grind through things. Instead, I teach the muscle behind every actual reaction that we take. So when we're under pressure, instead of reacting on autopilot, I teach you how to actually choose how you show up instead.
I need this lesson. So tell us a little bit about your business. And if someone wants to look you up at the beginning of the episode, where would they find you?
Easiest place, imkanleadership.com.
All right.
I'm also on social media, LinkedIn and everywhere.
And I would suggest you follow her because she has wonderful videos and she also has events. So we're just going to dive right in. We'll get back to how you can get in touch with Nagham when we're complete here. But what is resilience really? We all have our own idea what it means in our heads. How is it different than just being thick-skinned or just being stoic or just being, oh, you can't get me down? What is resilience?
If you look it up in a dictionary, it's going to tell you that resilience is having the ability to bounce back from challenges, right? And to me, that's not a good enough explanation of resilience. And it's actually, I feel like it's cut off midway. That's how I feel about that.
Okay, it's only partial definition.
Yes, because
Yeah.
yes, you do the thick skin, the toughness is good and has its place, but that's not it. That's not everything that you need. So true resilience and how I define it is that when you go through tough times, which every human being on earth does, you get through challenges. You have challenges that you get through. What happens if you bounce back is you've learned absolutely nothing. You've grown 0%. But my definition of resilience is that you bounce forward. Is that
I like
you
that.
don't just survive the problems that you've gone through and just go back to your, point zero where you started. What you do is you survive and think of that survival as the bridge and not the destination. So survival is the bridge that gets you to become more resilient. And when you are more resilient, you have bounced forward, you've learned new skills, you have grown, you have created more opportunities for yourself because on that bridge of survival, you're picking up lessons and learning from them instead of just running away trying to just get through the day or get through the year or the challenge.
Right. I love it. I love that. And it's not really, getting through something or, buckling down and holding on, you might be learning, missing some of the lessons that you could be learning, right?
100%.
Yeah.
And that's why I think you need to be vigilant. And the biggest philosophy that I teach is love, learn, and lead or let go. And that means when you've gone through a challenge, you've got to love the experience because there's lessons to be learned from them and you can lead others through them. And if you can't handle all of this, just let it go because a lot of us just ruminate on, I've been through this, why me and all of that instead of actually looking up and seeing, oh my gosh, all of these challenges are actual opportunities and lessons I can learn from and become much better than I am.
Exactly. I'm going to out myself. I learned a lesson earlier this week. I have a relatively new client that I'm not 100% well versed. And there was a meeting of 15 people, and I said something really dumb. It wasn't intentional. There was a piece of information I was missing. And I made a comment in the public, when we were all talking and it was my turn to talk, I made a comment and it was like, you're wrong. And 20 years ago, I would have been like, oh God, I'm just so stupid. And this time I went, well, didn't have that piece of information. Now I know that piece of information, shake it off and move forward. Right. So how I think self-awareness really played into that because I'm old enough to know that when I beat myself up about something I say or do that isn't quite correct, it's not productive. So that self-awareness piece can be really hard to get to. But why is self-awareness the starting point for resilience?
Yeah. There are 5 pillars of resilience as I defined it. And the first one is self-awareness starts out there as the foundation. And it's because you won't really be able to pick up on those lessons if you don't have that self-awareness, because it's so easy to translate it as something else. It's so easy to say, oh, I'm just, I just overthink things through, or I'm a perfectionist. But you don't actually understand, well, what is the reason why you're a perfectionist? What is the behavior associated with your perfectionism, and what can you actually do about it? Actually was coaching someone I was working with, and the one thing I asked her towards the end of our coaching journey, I asked if there has been a transformation, and she said 100% that I now have an understanding of why I seek perfectionism. And she was a high C personality who does a lot of overthinking and analyzing, and now she understands, and she has the tools to actually pause herself before she continues to seek perfectionism in her project. And not only that, but overthinking is instead of us practically thinking about a solution to seek a solution for the problem, what we do is we overthink everything to the point to where we forget why we started thinking about it in the first place. And so having the
We're
self-awareness,
silly people, aren't we, sometimes?
yes, it allows us to understand our behaviors. And this is why I call it behavioral resilience, not just resilience, is because it starts with the strengths that you have inside and how you actually use them on the outside. And then once you start becoming more self-aware, you've become so much better observer and observe other people's behaviors as well. So you'll start learning about, why is this person so upset because I said something? Instead of wondering, you'll become more aware of their personalities and how they behave the way they do as well.
Got it. Now, should we go right to those other pillars while we're here? Let's do it.
Sure.
We're going to go off our script here a little bit, and that's okay.
Oh, no worries. Yeah. I can go through them real quickly.
I think it's important.
Yeah, and it's they're all important factors in this. And the second one is communication. And if you'll see as I name them, they all have to have that foundational one of self-awareness, because how we communicate isn't just you and I talking right here too, right? It has a lot of other components to it, and it goes back to building that self-awareness and learning about us. But second one is communication. Third one is decision integrity. And that is, a lot of people make decisions every single day, like hundreds of decisions. Most of the time we doubt ourselves, though. We're not actually 100% sure of our decisions. So resilience teaches us that. And then the fourth one is burnout recovery, because we have no clue how the heck we got to the burnout and how to get out of it. And then finally, adaptability. And that is a huge one, especially we all found out after COVID how necessary that was to humanity.
Oh, yeah. Oh, did we ever learn to be adaptable? or we suffered more. You suffer more if you don't learn how to be adaptable. And I really like how you say it's behavioral, because I know anytime, and I'm not a therapist, I would never say I was a psychologist or giving advice for, psychological advice. That's not what I do. And I know my personal situation when I've gone to therapy. You can do talk therapy where you're just reiterating what you've gone through. And a good therapist is also going to bring a psychoeducation piece, a behavioral education piece, so that you're going to understand that maybe you have more control over the way you think and the things you do than you believe you do. Right. And we do have a lot more control. And when you learn those behavioral actions that can help you behave better, feel better, do better, it just makes life easier. So I really love that you're talking about it being a behavioral thing. So let's talk about anxiety, because it's something I know so many of us suffer with. You define anxiety a little differently, and you call it a signal, not something that automatically needs to be fixed, which was really cool to me, because I know we all want to, oh, what do I need to do to get unanxious right now? What does that thought about anxiety not being something that automatically needs to be fixed, what does that look like in practice?
Well, I got to do my own little disclosure and say I'm not a therapist either or
Yeah.
psychologist, but I have been studying behavior for a long time and looking at how we behave, and starting with myself and my own children. And as a
Mhm.
school principal, I did that, and a teacher did that. But I've seen this over and over. And what I've seen from anxiety is that it is basically telling us there is something going on. Your body's trying to tell you. There is either something that we are uncomfortable doing, we are
Mhm.
afraid of doing, or it's irrational, and our brain can't really it's in some sort of irrational thinking, and our brain can't decipher that. It just doesn't know how to translate that.
Mhm.
And most of the time when we're feeling the anxiety in our bodies, we jump to, I'm not well.
Mm.
Immediately, one conclusion, I'm not well, I need to get treated. Instead, I have learned, when I feel anxiety, and this is how I teach it to others, when you're feeling anxiety, and anxiety comes in a lot of different forms. Some people feel
Mhm.
the pit in the stomach, some people feel the actual hands shaking,
Heartbeat
heartbeat,
faster.
exactly,
Yeah.
the shallow breathing, the shoulders, closer to your ears, in a lot of different ways. And to me, the way I teach it is, if you feel one of these things, if you're having one of these things, I want you to relax for a second and just think of, where is this coming from? What is it?
Mhm.
Is it fear, or is it an actual thing that you're afraid of? Is it just fear
Right.
of something, or an actual inability to I don't know, a project you can't do, or somebody messaged you, and then this is where most of the anxiety comes from. Your boss messages you and says, "We need to talk." I
Oof.
mean,
What
yeah,
does it mean?
that just
About what?
those words, right? And this is where we go through, overthinking, and our bodies translate all of this into something else, because it goes to the amygdala first, right? We take in all of our thoughts through the
Yep.
amygdala. But if
Yep.
we give ourselves 2 seconds to actually just calm down and let our brain get the thoughts from the amygdala all the way to the prefrontal cortex, where we can now be able to think logically, we would be able to think, yeah, I think my boss wants to talk to me about the project I submitted last week. Or, I
Right.
mean, what could go wrong? Everything we translate is, we're about to die.
Right. I
Everything that
like to
happens to us.
exactly. I had a therapist tell me once, and I've held on to this for decades. Stop going to the end of the movie and making it a tragedy.
Exactly.
So if you're going to try to predict the future, you're trying to predict the future, which is not going to work anyway. So if you don't do it in a negative way, it will bring you less anxiety, I think, right? Sometimes that's the cause of our anxiety, is we're trying to live in the future. So now you mentioned that claiming your own resilience can change your relationship to anxiety. Tell me about that.
Yeah, what I have found is that most of the way we actually react to things is coming from a place of strength, not a place of weakness. So think about, as an example, you're going through your day and you're having I don't know, you get that email. Okay, let's say you got an email, you've got this meeting, a skip level meeting of some kind, and you're like not ready for it. And that's when you go into overdrive mode and woo, not ready, or what do I do? Or what have I done? Right?
Exactly. What mistakes have
it.
I made that they're calling me out for?
All of it, all at once, right?
Yep.
And the way we start reacting is based on a strength in us. So let's say I'm a high C personality, and then when I say high C, I'm talking about the DISC. For those of you who are not, familiar with the DISC behavioral analysis, high Cs tend to overthink, tend to overthink, need more information, tend to analyze everything, super analyze everything to a perfectionist point, or tend to withdraw completely. And all of these are strengths, and they are actually needed, because high Cs are highly creative and they're amazing in what they do in the analysis place, right? In the analysis world. This is why they're needed in companies everywhere. But we use those strengths incorrectly. We tend to grab on those immediately when we're under pressure, and it shows up immediately. So I tend to, I'm going to go to every single person in the office and talk to them and get more information about why my boss is asking for, right? Or I'm going to go through all my email, all my previous, listen, you're
What
talking to a high C, okay?
Oh yeah, I get it. I've seen it. I've done it.
And so building that self-resilience and understanding yourself, understanding your personality and your own strengths, and understanding that the way you're reacting is coming from a place of strength. If you take a minute to pause and yield and understand that, okay, this is not something to be irrational about and immediately jump to a conclusion. This is a place of where I need to pause and think, what's my next step, and then respond as opposed to react. And I'll tell you, it has served me for a very long time really well, learning that.
I bet. Yeah, because I know I'm kind of addicted to self-help. I got to read all the books. I got to talk to everybody. I just think we all have ways that we think and act that we might be able to improve, so we're a little bit happier in life, right? And I've always been on a quest to be happy ever since I was a kid. I grew up in a trauma-filled household, and I'm like, I am going to be happy. I'm just going to keep on going till I find my happiness, right? And that kind of tenacity really has worked in my favor. And it's interesting looking back, because when I was in my 20s, I just didn't have any awareness, or like you say, insight, self-exploration. I really didn't realize how much you can use what's happened to you in the past to create who you are in the future, not in a negative way, but in a positive way. And I think resilience and building resilience is a part of that, is taking those things and what did you learn and how can you move forward, right, in a positive way. And so in bringing that up, I know that there are some issues right now with some of the early 20 somethings, and they were the kids that were in junior high during COVID. Junior high is such an awkward time anyway. Even if you are surrounded by your peers, they're all a little weird. We're all a little weird that age, 12, 13, 14. They had COVID. They had, not going to school, being alone way too much, and not, communicating electronically rather than in person. And some of the things that we've seen are that has led to a fear of discomfort. And I've watched young people where some small thing will happen and it derails their whole day. So what causes that? What do you think? Can we dig into that a little bit? And what do you see there?
Yeah, and I love Dr. Arthur Brooks. He actually has it. I don't know if it doesn't look like you've heard of him from your facial
No.
expression. If your goal is happiness, Lori, you got to look into, because he just published a book on that, and
Ooh.
I love his perspective on this. But he talks about gratitude as the antidote to anxiety. He talks about how gratitude cannot coexist with anxiety. And that's something that some of us have to learn to, to be, what's the verb here? Help the SL out. Gracious?
Okay.
No. Let's just leave it there.
Okay. It's good. It's good.
Practice gratitude. How about that? Practice gratitude.
Yes.
But the thing, it's already difficult for, new generations to come up, and it's already uncomfortable having to learn, because there's something new every generation, right? That they're exposed to, and that our generations before don't know and have to kind of coexist together anyway. It's hard to listen to. I mean, my son is in college. He's 22 years old, and you're talking here. You're asking me this question. He's in my head, because he's gone through the COVID time, and in high school, and then a little bit in college, and now he's going in there normally. And there is a fear. There is a huge fear of the discomfort in human beings, anyways. But I see it more so in the younger generations, because they grew up in times where, things were easier. Even though COVID was a huge fear, but it actually kind of made things for the socially awkward, I guess, a little easier. So they don't have to communicate face to face. They grab their phones and they text. And even some of us, I mean, I'm in my mid 40s. I'm a social person, but during COVID, that taught me to be a little less social. A little more reliant on the technology I can just, send words. I don't actually have to use my voice.
Right.
So imagine people who grew up in that, who grew older, whose brains were developing in that time, where they don't need to rely on the socialization. Now, I brought Dr. Brooks in this conversation in the beginning, because he actually has, what he talks about is what we need to actually get out of that is build relationships, actual human connection relationships, not the chat online, or the text messages or whatever, WhatsApp, video calls, not even those. Get out and get yourself vulnerable, really, and connect with other human beings. Just sit down. And he actually did an experiment on that, and people felt a huge difference. And it may not be easy, I know, because especially if you're used to not socializing in person. What do you do? What exactly do you say? I mean, I kind of went through that myself a little bit when I was younger, because I was learning the English language, and I was afraid to say the wrong thing, because I was afraid people would laugh at me, but I had to learn to get over it. I had to at some point I had to talk. I had to open up my mouth and talk and make mistakes and be okay with it. And just like now, I don't know the verb to, practice gratitude, and I'm okay,
but I don't
with it.
either. So see, that's funny. Yeah, I don't know it either. So it's all good. But see, what I think is so interesting too is it is hard to advise other people to make themselves uncomfortable on a regular basis. And that's what it takes to develop connection, develop relationship, find your community. And while we're talking about this, I honestly think that one of the most important things we can do right now during turbulent times, let's just say we're in turbulent times, is join and create your own community, so that you have the emotional and social support that you need to get through these kind of times, right? And that can be anything. It can be, joining a local women's group. It can be, joining, volunteering for a really great cause that you feel strongly about. Things like that, where you show up on a regular basis, whether it's going to church, whether it's, volunteering for the, grief support group or something. You create and join communities to give you that experience of practice, and also to find relationship and support. And if you're not doing that and you're a young person, start right now. Start right now, because you will. I mean, I remember about probably 10 or 15 years ago, looking at my husband. I was raising my son. I was working full time. I was writing a book and, marketing that. And I was just slammed busy. And I looked up at him and I said, we don't have community right now. We don't have that place that. And so I went out and created a couple different places that I went to. Now I have that and it feels really good. I've got a group of friends that we're on a call every morning at 7:00. I know we're crazy every single day. I, hang out with a group of women that are doing amazing things. It's a really great way to grow, and it's a really great way to better enjoy your life, I think, right?
Yeah, and if you find difficulty with that, I think the thing that I always tell people is start small. You don't have to go
Yeah.
all out and stay out all day. Just pick one activity to do,
Yep.
just one a week, and then build on that. I run a speaking club where I coach people how to show up with presence and become more confident, not just in speaking, really, just any opportunity under pressure. And of course, it comes with the behavioral resilience lens, right? The
Right.
the one thing I did not realize is that what I was talking to the members, I think last week when we were meeting, the one thing I didn't realize is that the club was designed to teach, speaking under pressure and being confident and things. But what they were telling me is that they were looking forward to come and talk to each other and just
Yep.
connect. And if I felt like this is such an amazing thing. And because they spend all day long at work. Yes, there's people at work that you talk to, but it's
Right.
it's not the thing that you do out of choice.
Right.
So I think
Huge.
the kind of connection that you need to look for is one you make out of choice, that you
Right.
take the time during the day and go to, as opposed to, oh, I just have to go to school or I
Right.
have to go to work.
Yeah. Volunteer at the at the animal shelter to walk dogs, go things like that feed your soul, I think are really great places to maybe get past some of that discomfort or that anxiety, because what I see and what I used to feel, a lot of the anxiety was a fear of judgment. How are other people going to look at me going into a new situation? And I learned from one of my self-help courses of the many that I've taken that reality is you think everybody's looking at you. Well, they think you're looking at them. We all feel that
Yes.
way. Nobody's judging
Yes.
you, they're
Everyone
not.
else actually is busy looking and here there we're busy judging ourselves to begin with, and
Exactly.
we're afraid other people will see how we judge ourselves. That's how it is. But one thing
Yeah.
I want to say too about the that discomfort, how to get yourself out of the door. um we spend a long time practicing being shy and practicing being unable to communicate with each other, practicing unable to connect, right? And
Right.
I say practicing because we really do. When we constantly tell ourselves I'm shy. You know what you're doing? You're practicing being shy.
Oh.
How many times have you said that yourself and actually kept yourself from doing something,
Hmm.
right? You're
Yep.
practicing.
Yep.
So,
Yep.
what if we take that and flip it around and instead practice saying something positive to ourselves? And we say, I'm shy, but I'm going to go ahead and give this a try. I'm going to, go ahead and talk to Lori. I'm going to pick up the phone and call her today.
Yeah.
Right. And
Yep.
that'll make you feel much better about yourself, that you're going to want to do it again and again and again. So we practice all these negative behaviors all of our entire life, but without even thinking about it. So this is where the self-awareness comes back.
Yeah.
If you know what you're doing, you're practicing all these little things that you're afraid of
Right.
people judging you on. Just notice them and
Yeah.
practice the other thing.
I've heard someone say recently too that sometimes those negative things like fear, discomfort are actually exactly the medicine that you need. So if you can think of them as positive things and just know that you won't die. It's not a tiger come to kill you. It's not a tiger come to
No.
kill you if you walk in that door and volunteer for the first time. Um, but now, Nagam, you have such an interesting story. If you don't mind sharing, it was just so meaningful to me that you came to the US at 13 years old as a refugee, and you had lived in a refugee camp for a couple of years. It's a really incredible story of what it means to build resilience. Would you mind sharing a little bit about that?
Not at all. Most of what I've learned in resilience was, back in my childhood, but I didn't have a name for it. Thankfully, I started looking back and understanding as an adult, and I use those things that I've gone through as strength reminders.
Mhm.
So yeah, basically, I was born in Iraq, and 1990 is when we left Iraq because of the rebellion against Saddam, and because we're a family that actually participated in the rebellion, we had to leave the country. And I don't know how long it took us to leave, but that time itself was filled with fearsome memories. I should just leave it there. Of trying to find safety from place to place, trying to find food, trying to find family members in some points, until we found, a makeshift camp. The United States government, the army was kind of taking charge of that, so it felt safer, but there was still bombings going off from place to place from time to time, and there were landmines all over the place that you have to be very careful where you step, where you walk, and this was me as an 8-year-old, and then leaving that to a desert refugee camp in Saudi Arabia for 4 years, where again you had to relearn how to live in that new environment, and kind of just hold on and pray when the sandstorm hit, because there's nothing else you could do. And still had the dream of one day becoming a teacher, because this is what I really wanted to do as I grew up, and missing family and all of these thoughts, and as a child. And then at 13, our family was chosen to come here as refugees in the United States, and it was great, because I thought, the first thought was like, yes, I'm gonna become a teacher now. I'm gonna go to school, but that itself, I had to learn the language from, again, English language. I had to communicate with people, and I was answering about 1 million questions about me because I look different
in your second language. As a
Yeah,
child yourself.
But I had questions of my own, because I was trying to learn the language and the culture, and how things ran here. And of course, kids didn't understand, and there was a lot of bullying going on. And but I always told myself, see, I had the wrong definition of resilience back then. I told myself, I'm going to be resilient. I'm going to endure all of this because of that goal that I have. I was going to graduate high school, go to college, and graduate at the age of 21. I had that date set for myself. 21. I was going to become a teacher, because in my experience as a student in Iraq and in Saudi and in America here, I felt that the teachers didn't do a great job of inspiring students. And so, although I was going through the, finding safety, finding food, that goal never left my mind. I thought one day it's gonna become true, and I'm gonna help, little kids. I'm gonna inspire little kids, and that's, honestly, I felt like this is what kept me going throughout. And of course, my faith in God, that if He wants us to stay alive, we will stay alive no matter what.
So how did you use that to build resilience? Was that just a natural thing? Because there's so many potential outcomes for someone with a story like that would probably not be like yours,
Yeah. And I know a couple of people who went through the same thing I did, and who always use their stories as scapegoats for their behavior. Who always say, well, I had a traumatic childhood. And so, I couldn't make it, this, or I couldn't do this. My experience has been, I'm very strong-minded, and if people tell me you can't do something, Lori, if you right now, you tell me I can't do something, I'm going to show you how I can do it. I'm going to come back and it'll be done, and I'll show you how.
Me too.
And
I love that.
I think that comes from my mom and dad, that they've always been, entrepreneurs and really strongly spirited. the resilience part is me understanding. I think I was in my early 20s when I realized that it takes two things, the mindset and the behavior outside. Both of those things, they work with each other. It's not just how you think, because we always have these self talks, right? They're not, they're always, most of the time, they're negative self talks.
Right.
Right. And the other thing too is they don't do anything positive. So they don't impact us positively. So that's when I realized, like, oh, now I'm seeing patterns in my life. I see that every time I go through a challenge, I fall down. And then when I pick myself back up, I've learned something new. When I saw those patterns repeating themselves, this is when I learned something really powerful: anticipation.
Okay.
This is when I told myself, okay, Nagham, life is not easy. And from now on, going forward, I'm going to anticipate that I will see more challenges, even if I just got back up from a challenge. Even if I just stood up and I felt really powerful, I'm going to anticipate there's more challenges coming, and I'm going to use this learning to help me through them. And that was really, that was my biggest eye opener. And this is when I started reading and, learning more about resilience.
That makes a lot of sense. So part of it is, I think, simply who you are and that bright light you had from the beginning, right? And then the other part is that ability to hold on to that hope and keep moving toward it. And I personally, I think by the time I'm in my 60s, by the time you get to my age, you're like, yeah, life is brutal, chaotic, and incredibly beautiful all at the same time. And you have to accept that you will go through brutal times, beautiful times, chaotic times, and it will constantly be like that. And it's up to you to kind of level set where you're going to be during times like those. So, I mean, you've done obviously an incredible job of coming from a background like you did and creating something that uses that trauma and that pain to help other people. And that's pretty amazing, Nagham. I mean, it really is. It really is.
Nagham. One thing I wanted to mention real quick is that during one of the when we were in Iraq and we were running away from all the violence, there was a place where we stayed at, and there was a girl who was about my age who had been shot through her thighs, through and through. One bullet came in one thigh, came out the other, and she was basically paralyzed. And that I don't remember the paralysis. I remember her face. There are times when I close my eyes and I still see her. She has such a pretty smile and such a great positive outlook on life. And I look at her and I compare my life, and I think she can't even walk. Yeah. And look at that. If I can walk, I have my legs. And I think this is where also I picked up to be, that gratitude, to be thankful to what I have and what others don't. Now, it's not, Lori, it's not always easy. It doesn't always come to you to become more resilient. Right. This is why I teach it now, because I feel like people need somebody to nudge them in the right direction, somebody to help them understand that, what you've got is a strength. Yes. And it's something that you can build on, and not something to be afraid of.
Right. I love that. So digging back into our outline here, we took a little sidestep. I love it. Great story. And it's just so meaningful. When you said confidence isn't something you're born with, confidence, resilience, how is it built, and how do you keep it and maintain it?
Just like you maintain shyness.
Yeah.
This myth about extroverts, that they are confident or good speakers, right? And not true. You may be an extrovert. You may have no fear of the mic or speaking up, but you may not be the most engaging person in the room.
Yeah.
Right.
True.
So yeah. And so confidence is something you can also train, just like you can train resilience. And again, just like you've been telling yourself your entire time, oh, I'm shy. Tell yourself you're confident. You can actually speak up. And that's not enough. It's not enough to just tell yourself and you'll be magically confident. It also takes learning about who you are and bringing those strengths up to the surface, because most of the time, if I say I'm an overthinker, I'm this, and I'm thinking of it negatively, I hold myself down. What I say is, you know what? I analyze things. I am an overthinker, but I analyze things to understand, to have a better understanding. I could put that to use in some ways. But right now, I don't need it for my confidence. And this is why I train in my club in a behavioral resilience lens, because it's not about let me rephrase. It's not just about the eye contact or the how you present your body. It's about composure, understanding yourself from the inside, and then holding yourself up to that outside. One person I was training who had an interview to go to, and she was worried. She wanted to, she wanted to feel confident going into the interview. So she was looking at other questions and asking other people who've gone through the interview process to see what their experience was. I told her, just close it off. Don't even listen to anyone or look at questions, or this is all noise. What you need to do is look at you. How long have you been doing this job for? Yeah. What got you in there in the first place? And as she started talking, I could see her beaming. I could see the passion in her face. And that's how you bring back composure, is by going back inside and starting and pulling that strength out. She felt so comfortable talking in front of the interviewees. Now that she's building on her own passion. And so again, confidence is not something you are either born with or not. It's something you can train and work on your entire life. But you have to maintain that. It's like Spanish. I took Spanish in high school, college. I was really good, and I'm done. I've not used it ever since. So I don't really understand it.
Well, I just picked up Duolingo and my high school and college French. So it comes back. You'd be so surprised. And Duolingo is free. So I'm bringing back my French with little daily exercises. It's so much fun. So you may enjoy that too, just as a little side hobby, right? So, and another way to entertain yourself and challenge your brain and all those things. So I want to circle back to burnout recovery. We didn't talk a lot about that, but before we wrap up, let's talk about what it is. You say it's a pillar of resilience, and that if you can address it, you can actually pull yourself out of it. Correct?
Yeah. And first of all, most of the time we don't recognize that we don't know if we're stressed out, burned out, this or that, but burnout is a situational thing. If I'm burnt out, I'm at my desk, I'm burnt out, at that, because of that project, I finished the project, I'm going to feel good a little bit, right? That burnout is going to leave me until the next project, happens. It can also be environmental, where you work in an environment that induces burnout. And so every time you go into it, or about to go into it, you're feeling that. So most of the time we overdo everything. Meaning our plate is so full and we think, I'm so burnt out. I actually just did a video on this. I need a massage. It's going to help me get through. Or I need a vacation. Or what you're doing, you're adding even more. If you're burnt out, your plate is already more than full. Stop adding stuff. What you need is start removing. Look inside and see, okay, what is it that you don't need? And we actually tackle everything as it comes. And that's a problem. That doesn't help us get through the day. We need to stop and assess. Does it meet the two conditions of urgent and important? Then yes, that becomes a priority. If it does not, then you can either schedule it, delegate it, or get rid of it altogether. But most of the time, our calendar is filled with things that are just nonsensical and we think are important. And that's what's causing us the burnout. And the other thing, the way we react to everything that is being said to us can cause that burnout as well. Lori said this to me this morning. And you can, you start ruminating about that. And then you start overthinking about, what does she mean? I wonder if what I said last week did da, 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 da.
Oh,
But if you actually talk it out with Lori or with
yes.
someone else,
Yes.
then you just, you ease yourself up.
Yep. Not hanging on to so much. I have a prop that I have from an earlier social media project. This is the typical woman's to-do list. Check this out. It's gigantic. It just keeps going, right? It keeps going and going. And I do agree, taking some things off that list is huge for your sanity. How many things do you make yourself responsible for that maybe you could let go? That maybe aren't yours, or like you said, imagining or trying to predict how other people are going to feel if you do or say a certain thing. I think I finally learned I like to say that other people's feelings are their responsibility. If you're conducting yourself in a way that's compassionate and appropriate, don't try to manage other people's feelings, because again, that's another thing that you're doing that you don't necessarily need to do. So we could go on and on. I know that. So this is going to be a really long episode, and it's really going to be one of our best. So wrapping up, do you have any final word of advice for someone in their 20s trying to build resilience?
I would say start with self-awareness and not the outward, I know I take time this, or I I'm loud or whatever. No, I'm saying dig deeper to understand why you do the things you do. Why do you talk? Why are you loud? Is it because you haven't been heard before? Is it because no one's allowed you this space or the room?
Mhm.
What are the reasons behind it, and what have you been practicing all your life? So start with self-awareness, build that, become a little bit more observant with your own behavior to help you start with that resilience. And know that resilience requires that you anticipate problems happening, challenges happening.
Mhm.
Life is full of problems and challenges, and just sleeping and thinking, oh, I'm having a wonderful day and nothing's ever going to happen to me is a mistake.
Yeah.
We and if you think that challenges are going to happen, and I'm going to dig deeper, I'm going to go into my brain and index and find where I have been great and use that to my advantage, then you'll be okay.
Mhm.
One other book I want to recommend is a book by Dr. David Schwartz.
Okay.
Amazing read. In fact, I listened to it on the way to everything that's going to make me feel nervous. It's called The Magic of Thinking Big. And one thing that you actually, Lori, you reminded me of it as you were talking right now. He calls negative self-talk is mismanaged negative imagination.
Oh, I like it. I like it.
If
Yeah, that's
it's left,
great.
if it's left up to us. But if reading that book really helps put perspective on how we think, and how actually thinking bigger and more positively can actually help us see through things and not just around things.
Mhm. I love it. Great way to wrap up. So, where can people find you and your work?
Well, I'm on LinkedIn and Instagram. I'm on Imkan Leadership Develop, or imkanleadership.com is my website. And I'm actually hosting. So August marks the third year of Imkan's anniversary. So we are turning 3 years old.
I love that.
Thank you. And in August 31st, we're celebrating that anniversary with the Imkan Academy launch with a 3-hour free event where I'm actually going to be breaking down something called the reactor pattern and going through digging a little bit deeper into the DISC personality behavior.
Nice.
I'm having a couple of guest speakers, Voices of Resilience. We'll be talking a lot about that in the Johari model, and closing the day with a leadership coach who will be talking about rising up from routine and doing something with your life. And this event is all free, and there's going to be networking and prizes. And I would love for everybody to join. I can send you the link for that as well, Lori, to include in the show
Do that.
notes.
I will put it in the show notes. So thank you so much for joining us today. This was absolutely delightful. I've learned a lot. I'm sure our audience has learned a lot. We will put information on how they can reach you in the show notes with links. So go get to know Nagham on LinkedIn. follow her on Facebook. Wherever you are, find Nagham, and she will help you learn more about resilience. Her videos are amazing. And if you are listening or watching this on YouTube, please do me a favor and subscribe. Hit that subscribe button. Give me a like, maybe a comment if you're really feeling it. And we will be back soon with another episode of Work Mom Says Don't Be an Idiot, where we teach you how to play the emotional contact sport of business so you can experience less drama and more success.
Thanks for listening to Work Mom Says.
Don't be an idiot.
For more information, you can email WorkMom at lori@workmomsays.com. That's Lori at workmomsays.com. And remember,
Don't be an idiot.